Okay, we're live from Studio 4 at Simon & Schuster. I'm Stu Smith. I work here in the sales department, and I am joined today by Morgan. NYC Book Girl is her handle, and I am joined by Heather, Mademoiselle Boaz at Bibliophile. And we are here to talk today about the New York Times bestseller by Jessica Knoll, The Favorite Sister. This is Jessica Knoll's second novel with SNS. We're really excited about it. It is one of the book club favorites, and today you can win a copy of this by commenting in the comments below. There are going to be 5 lucky winners, so you'll get a copy of this month's pick, which is Jessica Knoll's The Favorite Sister, as well as next month's pick, which is Dear Mrs.Bird by A.J. Pierce, which is a title we put out on our Scribner imprint here at Simon & Schuster that we're really excited to talk to you about next month. But for now, we're going to get to The Favorite Sister by Jessica Knoll, and if you haven't had a chance to dip into the book, I'll go into a really brief description for you. It is the story of 2 sisters, and it's Kelly and Brett, and they are kind of rivals because Kelly grew up like the pretty and popular one. Brett was always kind of the outcast. Well, fast forward to their adult life, and Brett has become this bombshell. She's tatted up. She has this great business that is really philanthropic, where she is. It's a bike business, right? Where she is. Kind of donating to other lands. It's become this huge business owner. And Kelly had a pregnancy during college. She decided to keep her baby, and she had to quit college, and unfortunately is a little down on her luck right now. So she had to go and ask her sister for a job, and she's helping her out at this bike business, which is kind of like a Soul Cycle. That was kind of
like
a fitness empire. And that's kind of the beginning plot. But the big plot is that Brett is part of this big reality show that is called Gold Diggers. That's Goal Diggers. And it's kind of a Real Housewives meets Shark Tank kind of situation. And this season, Kelly has decided to join the cast. So their rivalry is kind of picked up again because Brett is at the top of her game on this show, and Kelly's kind of coming in and might steal her thunder. So it's set in the world of entrepreneurship, as well as this kind of weird, glitzy, or pseudo-glitzy reality show. So I thought that we could kind of kick off the conversation today talking about that, talking about this weird dichotomy that's happening with I don't know if you would say that reality shows are downclass or anything like that, but I think when you think like high-powered business people, you wouldn't necessarily strictly go to the world of a reality show. So what Jessica's created is this really interesting world of powerful women on reality shows. What did you guys get out of that?
Yeah, I thought it was so interesting. They talk a lot in the book about how the women are not well paid by being on the show itself. So
Right.
They come into it with their own wealth and their own status, and then they're volunteering basically to be a part of this show for whatever personal reason, for the fame, for the self-promotion, for the promotion of their business. But she creates that situation where it's fully their choice to be a part of it. Besides Kelly, they're not doing it because they have to.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. And I thought that I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
No, I just feel like it's interesting showing the behind the scenes versus sort of the life that they put on the cameras and to their public. They have a lot of them have public images, whether it's via Instagram or certain initiatives that they have. And I think what it sort of helps to illustrate is kind of what women are still having to do to get ahead and to be at the top in that entrepreneurial world.
Well, what I thought was interesting was like that it's kind of interesting what women have to go through to have their voices heard,
Yes.
and the platforms that it's kind of forced to do from society, which is this weird world of reality shows. And I don't watch a lot of reality television myself. I watch a few competition shows, but I don't watch a lot of the Real Housewives, for instance.
Yeah.
But you don't need to, I don't think, to read this book, because it actually paints a really good story and a really good depiction of what it feels like to be kind of prodded by these producers who are after a certain rating or a certain storyline. So I don't think you have to watch reality TV to necessarily get into this book. Did you guys find that to be true?
Well, I feel like we get really into that world through Kelly because she's the
Yeah.
new one. So Brett and Stephanie know how the producers are going to play them, know that like
how to play the game.
Right. These open bottles of wine are there so that they will get drunker because they won't pay attention to how many are being opened in the minute and things like that. Whereas Kelly is super susceptible to the lights and the hours spent that kind of make you feel like you're going crazy, so you start admitting things and stuff like that. So she's our way into like just how psychotic this world is and how it can drag you in when you're not even aware of the fact that it's kind of turning your life upside down.
Is Kelly the one that you related to the most?
I don't know. I was thinking about this earlier. It's such a hard question. I feel like there are elements of all of them. I really liked Jen the best. I know we never got to be in her perspective. We hear from Brett and Stephanie and Kelly, but she of the Gold Diggers was my favorite character, the one that I was happy to be focusing on.
And that's an interesting point because this book is told from different points of view. So you get the two sisters for sure, and then you get a few other people that chime in from time to time. And what's also really interesting and a little meta is that they're doing these interviews. You know, those confessional interviews that people do on the cameras for reality television. So like there's kind of these there's like interviews within, or there's points of view within points of view, and you're never quite sure what they're turning on for the camera or what they're confessing to us.
Right.
Absolutely. I think that's part of the whole behind the scenes depiction of it, I think is part of what makes it enjoyable, whether you have watched reality television or not, because it's very, it feels very suspenseful or very sort of like... you get a look in.
Yeah, and it's always like a little bit of a dangling carrot to continue on. Like I found this book very page turning, and I kept like going forward because I was like, wait, who's lying to me and who's not lying to me? And you know that can be kind of how reality TV can feel sometimes, where you're like, I think this person's being fake and they're not being true. Yeah, what is reality? That's a really good point. Like, what is reality and what is actually going on? And I think that is what Jessica Knoll was trying to say was. You know, there is a certain mask that women, especially powerful and successful women, do have to wear. And I think she was trying to tell that with a mask within a mask, which was the reality TV point of view.
Yeah. I feel like you start the book also knowing that there's at least one liar amongst them, like somebody's dead, something's gone wrong, and then as you snowball through it, you're like, whoa, there are way more liars amongst this crowd than I thought there were. I need to go back and re-examine everything I've read so far and figure out where the
that's a good point.
Untruths are coming.
At the beginning of the book, we know someone's died. That's like chapter 1, and so that's just what propels the entire thing forward. Where you're just like, well, I've got to figure out like who's the one that died. So it's I think once you start, you're not going to be able to stop. And remember that if you comment below in our comments section, you can win a copy of the book we're talking about right now, The Favorite Sister by Jessica Knoll, as well as next month's Books Club selection. So the other things I wanted to ask you guys, I have my questions written down. I know it's always not the best. So we see the sibling relationship as kind of the cornerstone relationship, and the siblings have decided that they're going to go into business together. What did you guys think of the sibling relationship?
That's a great question. I feel like maybe not from the start, but as the book goes along, you start to understand how their personalities would actually complement one another in the business context.
Yeah.
Like Brett obviously is extremely charismatic and the face of the company. And at first you're made to kind of doubt Kelly, but as the book went forward, there are lots of questions being raised. But I started to trust more and more Kelly's place in the company.
Oh, okay.
You know?
All right.
So maybe there was a reason that they started out that way.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's also a good depiction, just a very honest depiction of a sort of sibling relationship, because of course you're going to have your ups and downs and you're going to have your drama, but also the history of being siblings. And so, yes, they very much complement each other in certain ways.
Yeah, and I feel like Kelly's sections and Brett's sections, they're constantly dialing back to like, oh, well, it's this element of our childhood that's making her act that way, or things like that. They're able to see one another in a way that we wouldn't be able to see them. Yeah,
that's really a good point. They have a really strong history behind them, which is not something you always get with your business partners.
Yeah. Unless you've been related to them your whole life.
So you're saying you would go into business with your sibling?
Yeah, but I have a very different relationship with my brother than these two.
Okay. Would you go into business with your sibling?
He's 11 years younger, my brother, and I don't know if I'd trust him.
Oh, okay. Well, this is Facebook Live. I mean, he might be watching right now. Well, that's great. That's great. I'm glad you guys got that out of it because I thought that was such an interesting part to make them siblings. Because, you do. I mean, in this Kardashian era that we're living in, I think that was kind of the nod to that that viewpoint of having this deep history and then becoming so successful later in your life. Okay, we do have an audience question that I have to look at. I think it's Samaya wants to know which character felt the most relatable to you.
This is maybe a little bit of a weird answer, but I really liked Layla, Kelly's daughter.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you. I mean, she's 12. I
the
think.
dark horse.
So
Okay.
I feel like I am far past her age-wise, but she is just kind of out there trying to figure out her place in the world.
Right.
Obviously, she's looking for female role models in both her mom and her aunt and all of the other women on the show. She really wants to bond with Stephanie.
Yeah.
She comes into this from a place of clearly she's there to find women to look up to, but also she is posting Instagram stories and is just living life as a 12-year-old in 2017 or 2018.
I mean, she also acts far above her
Yes,
age,
and people
which
respect
is-
her for
yes.
being that way. But I really liked her, and I liked when she got to be a part of the story.
Okay. All right. How about you?
It's so tricky because I feel like every single woman, I understood something about them, very
Okay.
much so. And then if there was something that I was sort of like, oh, that's interesting. It's like that friend that you sort of have something that you're like, that's interesting, but I get them, but that's not me. So every single one of them, there was an element that I related to, but I don't think
Okay.
there was one character that I totally was that person.
Oh, okay.
They're all such extremes. I feel like it's hard to pick, especially of the
That's
gold diggers
true.
themselves. It's hard to pick out the one that you could relate to, unless you fall into that extreme, and then that's
Right.
awesome.
I mean, did you think that they were caricatures or trying to represent anything?
A little bit, but I was amazed by how much Jessica Knoll was able to ground each of the characters as we found out a bit more about why they acted the way they did and why they made the choices they had, why they started the companies they had, why they joined the show in the first place, because she gives us little pieces and parts of that as the book goes along. I found that I had a moment for almost all of them where I was like, I get it. I get why you're here. I get why you've taken the steps to be the person you are today.
To that point, I do know that for reality television, they often have sort of roles in mind, right? And they have a caricature, so to speak, that they want. So when we're saying what is a reality, I think when they're on camera, yes, they are caricatures, but Jessica Knoll writes these women that are so complex and that have all of this subtext and all of this backstory that you don't see, that they don't present on camera, and that's what we get in the behind the scenes, and that's what makes them really interesting, really complicated and
Likeable.
Yes.
And just as a reminder, if you comment below in our comment section, you will enter for a chance to win. Excuse me, for a chance to win The Favorite Sister by Jessica Knoll, which is our book club favorite this month, as well as next month's pick, which is Dear Mrs. Bird by A.J. Pierce on our Scribner imprint. And we do have another comment or question. I also have a friend who's texting me at the same time, so sorry about that. Lisa says she's 1/3 of the way through and she loves it. Well, Lisa, hold on to your hat because you got a long way to go, and there are many twists and turns after 1/3 of the way through. So I'm excited for you and excited for your journey. And that's what we got there. So the one thing I wanted to ask about was the men in the book. There's not a lot of presence of men in this book, which is just fine by me. But I thought that it was interesting the roles of men. What did you guys think of the men?
Yeah, well, I also felt the absence of men in not a problematic way at all. A
Not
lot of
at
this
all.
book, passes the Bechdel test in a way that I found really
I love
pleasing,
that.
and I loved that even the producer of the show was a woman, and so it was sort of one of those settings where women were it, and if anything, men were often objects for the women on the show to use.
Yes.
In a way that I found fun and different.
Yeah.
And there is a beautiful scene that takes place in the bar restaurant of a hotel, where it shows how one of the women is actively being mistreated by the male bartender, which I thought was super interesting, complex, and realistic.
Yes.
Besides that, I didn't miss the men.
Same. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I would just agree with all of that. I think that it was sort of, it's so refreshing to, and you don't realize it at first, but then you're like, oh my gosh, I've read so much, and oh, there's a man. You know, it's like, wow, that's so refreshing.
And I think refreshing is exactly the word, because I found it so interesting that it was, women as the caregivers, but also as the moneymakers, like the
Yes.
breadwinners. And I was like, yes, like they can absolutely be both. And like, I'm so glad someone's like taking this on and bringing it to the forefront.
And she fully examines the relationship that causes when the woman is the one bringing home the money. Like in Stephanie's relationship with her husband, she digs into how that changes the way that they interact with one another.
No, I think that's a perfect talking point when you guys take this home to your book clubs. Is what does it mean when you are the breadwinner as well as the caregiver of your family, and how it really tears people apart. And I think that was like also part of the psychology of what was going on in this book, because you see. This isn't giving anything away. You see women who snap at some points, I mean, you see some people who can handle all the pressure of a reality show, a successful business, a family, all this stuff. And then you see a few who are like, you know what, I took on one task too many and I have gone off the edge. And so I thought it was really a powerful way to look at kind of women's relationships with family and work.
Yes.
She did a great job with that. So remember, if you guys comment below, you'll have a chance to win The Favorite Sister by Jessica Knoll Jessica Knoll, as well as Dear Mrs. Bird by A.J. Pierce. Okay, so did you guys have a chance to read Jessica's first book, The Luckiest Girl Alive?
No, I did not.
I did not. It has been recommended to me for years, and I keep meaning to read it.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, I thought this was such an interesting follow-up. I'm sure you guys know what the book is about, and we don't have to go into it there. But, it deals with some other issues with women. And I thought this was such an interesting book for Jessica to follow up with, that it's always curious to see, what they come up with their second book.
Yeah, and I know that I had read a bit about her, and I know that she wrote a lot of her personal experience into her first book, and that plotline plays a role in this book, though not in the same way that it must have been in the first book. So I feel like that kind of goes to show how something like sexual assault is something you live with, and it will continue to affect your work. But
Correct.
she really got to portray it in that first novel.
Yeah, absolutely. And what did you guys think of the surprise ending? Without giving anything away, what did you guys think of the surprise ending?
Okay, so I was going to say, the thing that I loved about it is that I really feel like the book straddles genres, because as we get closer to the end, it's like it becomes more thrilling, and just like you have to know. How do I not?
I know.
Yeah.
I liked
Did it
where
shock
she
you?
went with it. I kind of figured it out a little bit.
Did you?
I know.
You did?
I did not figure it out at all.
I thought I couldn't possibly be right because it was so crazy.
Yeah.
But I didn't have the whole thing put together, but I had
Okay.
a little piece of it. And then when we got there, I was vindicated. I was like, wow, I didn't think that they would ever do that. And then they did.
I am floored. I did not have this figured out in
At
the
the end, I'll
least.
tell you what it was that I got. And
Okay, after this is over.
We're not going to spoil it for you.
We'll go through plot by plot point. We'll be here till midnight. Cameras turned off. Of the sisters, who did you think was the favorite?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, Brett starts out as America's favorite, obviously.
Uh-huh.
But they're set in this world of reality television where they could always be on the outs.
Right.
So I feel like the problem is they're always thinking that they're not the favorite.
Oh.
And acting in a way trying to put themselves back in the esteem of Jesse or the eye of the viewer,
That's a
whoever
good
it is
point.
in
And
that.
that kind of pits them against
in that
each other.
moment,
And
yeah.
it's also like the history that Kelly has always been the perfect one. Kelly
Right.
has been, thought of as, mother's favorite,
Right.
so to speak.
Right.
So that's a very different,
Right. Their
relationship.
roles
that's
have
just- yes.
clearly reversed at some point in their lives,
Yeah.
but then maybe they're at any moment going to flip back.
Right,
So.
right, and that's interesting. You're bringing up that they wanted to be the favorite, like on the show, as well as the favorite within their family, because I found it really weird that like the thing that was like Kelly's dethroning or like fall from grace was like she had the nerve to have a baby in college, and I was just like, okay, but I mean, that is a reality of a lot of people's world, and I did like that Brett had kind of like stepped up, and she became my favorite personally because she was like this badass woman with like tattoos, like she was doing this like wonderful work for like this organization she really believed in, and I was just kind of like, yeah, like I think you're the favorite.
All circling back to making her nieces live like even better.
Right, and that was the
Yeah.
thing. Like Brett really rallied for her sister's like quote unquote mistake. She was
Right.
like, "I'm here for my niece, and I'm gonna like pick her up and like make her
Yeah.
a stronger woman."
It was interesting to see them both think about how they were reflected in Layla's eyes also. Like they
Oh,
both
yeah.
held themselves in such high esteem of how they were mothering or aunting.
Right.
Anting, if that's a verb
Right.
that we can use.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but and also how Layla resembles them, or how
Yeah.
you know.
Uh-huh.
I think Brett takes a lot of pride in how Layla has turned out because of her
Yeah.
anting,
Yeah.
so to speak.
I think there was a lot of worry about their level of influence.
Yes.
And I think influence is like the word that should be used when you're talking about a lot of these women, because they were trying to be influential, in their businesses, on the show, and within their families, which is what Noel kind of points out so well within the book. So, fantastic. So again, you can enter to win a copy of The Favorite Sister by Jessica Knoll by making a comment below. There will be 5 lucky winners. You will win The Favorite Sister, as well as our next month selection, Dear Mrs. Bird by A.J. Pierce. Oh, I thought, okay, so we have to wrap it up at this point. It's been wonderful talking to you guys. Do you guys have any last-minute words about The Favorite Sister by Jessica Knoll?
No, but I mean, I'm not typically a reader of this genre, and I really, really enjoyed this book. So
Oh, good.
I highly recommend it.
I highly recommend it. Oh, I like that. Okay.
Yeah, no, I absolutely feel like it could be enjoyed by many different types of readers.
Yes. And I think that's what I was trying to say when I was like, I don't watch reality TV. I had no idea I was going to be so into
Exactly.
this book.
Yeah.
But it made me so excited.
in.
It pulls you in. I think there's so many talking points. I mean, for a book club discussion, I think you can get
can't
a
imagine
lot.
it. Yeah, I
Right.
think so.
A lot out of this book. All right. So pick up Jessica Knoll's The Favorite Sister. Also enter for a chance to win by commenting below. And thank you so much for joining us.